All right. I think it's time to get started. It's 1 o'clock. So, very welcome here. I speak English, as you see, because I represent an international study program, a bachelor's program in biomedicine from Karolinska Institutet. So, my name is Jonas Sundbäck. I'm the director of studies for the bachelor's program in biomedicine, so I'm overall in charge of the content of the program, and I'm also running a course, and I will come to that later on in the presentation. So, I usually start to bring up what is really biomedicine, because, I mean, implied in the name, right? It's bio, it's medicine. And sometimes it's confusing what is the difference between the medical program and with a biomedical analyst, for instance. And I would say that in general, if you're interested in biomedicine, you want to know the natural science basics behind on how do the human body function in health and disease. And if you're interested in meeting a lot of patients and set diagnosis and so on, and know treatments, then it's definitely the medical program. And biomedical analysis, they are also learning a lot of methods and so on. And then they, the biggest difference, I guess, is that they get a license to work directly in a hospital lab or another lab after education, while most of our students continue with masters and maybe research master's programs or research education afterwards. So that are some of the differences. But what is really biomedicine then? I mean, this is what you think of, right? Lab and molecules going into detail, and of course that is part of the education. But it's also about problem solving. I will come back to where our students ends up in the when they have finished the program, which is of course is interesting to see also. But it's not only lab work. You can end up in very many different places. So a few words about the bachelor's program in biomedicine at KI then. So it's we started 1995, so it's soon 25 years ago. And the general goal is to educate in molecular medicine to understand the mechanisms behind diseases and how the human body function in health. And of course, an important part of the program is also how to learn to solve problems. And being at Karolinska, we also have a strong connection with research. So Karolinska Institutet is one of the most research-intensive universities in Sweden, compared to the balance between research and education. So there's a lot of our teachers, they are active researchers, and or actually they are mainly researchers, but also involved in teaching, many of them. So who takes the program? It's usually those ones taking natural science programs in Sweden, but now when we're in an international program, it's a lot of different backgrounds. Of course, you can go social science and take a natural science basic year also. That's perfectly fine. Grades are going up. So for 2018, it was needed to have 20.57 in score coming directly from high school. And I will show you some more what is required for the högskoleprovet also soon. So since 2014, the program is given in English, completely in English. We have given the program that last 2 years, and the program we've given in English for soon 20 years. So we have a long tradition of giving it in English, but in 2014 we decided we should give the whole program in English, which also meant that we started to take in international students. So that was completely new for the program at that take. Being a subject that is very international, biomedicine, both in terms of where you end up working very commonly and also in terms of research, it's very international. We also have got a lot of opportunities for exchange studies, which I think is important for you to be aware of if you're interested in the program. Full program is 45 students per year. We take in a little bit more, a little bit less than 60 because some drops out, don't think it's correct one and so on, but 45 is a full program. So it's a fairly small class of students in general. And then looking to how many applies to the program, you see there are quite high numbers. We have 2 rounds since it's an international program, so one in January, and these are for students that are coming mainly from outside of Sweden, or outside of Europe, I should say. And in the second round in April, then it's a round where national and EU students apply for the study program. And the reason for having 2 is in April is way too short time for the international students coming from outside EU to get a visa to come to Sweden, so therefore they have to apply earlier, and that's why we need to have 2 rounds. But as you see, we have the majority of students intake in the national round then. And then coming back to grades, it's slightly higher on the international side, but this, which is combined with EU and with the national Swedish students that apply, we have 20.57. These are the ones that have read additional courses, and these are then the högskoleprov at the national test. So, where do the students come from? Of course, it's interesting. What kind of classes do we have? So this is a map showing then from where the students have studied their high school studies. That is what we can ask for when they enter. That's what they apply with their high school grades. So as you see, it's very widespread. So it's a very international class, and it's a lot of dots. But then going down to numbers and comparing where they come from, you see that about 40% have taken their high school studies in Sweden. But then you see it's a good representative. So it's truly international class of students that are here, and it's a very vivid and welcoming atmosphere, I must say, in the program, with a lot of representatives of different cultural backgrounds. So that's a little bit about the program and what the students come from before starting. I should also mention that many of the students that start the program have gone directly from high school. So most of them, I would say 70% approximately, are coming directly from high school. So it's quite young students coming to the program also. So this is the program then, and the content. So as a bachelor program, it's a 3-year program. So we have year 1, 2, year 3. And we have intake once per year, so we have only intake for the autumn semester, which start here. So this is where you start, and then the students go up. And it starts with a block in basic natural science, and then continue with more human biology, and then going into more molecular medicine. So looking at the details, and I should say also it ends with a diploma project, which is then where the students go out and do a research project, either in an academic setting, that is in academic research, either at KI or in Sweden or abroad, or in a company. It's possible to do that also in a research-intensive company. So looking at the courses here, first year, introduction, but it's a lot of chemistry in the first year, cell biology, genetics, a lot of methods in there, so it's really getting the foundation of understanding which is needed for the coming course in the coming years in the program. And then in year 2 it continues with some statistics. Important to know, of course, how to analyze data. We have tissue biology, immunology, this is the course I'm responsible for. We have neuroscience, physiology, and so on, so it's going more into the systems, how the body works in health and disease. And then in year 3 there are 2 focus courses, one in oncology and one in cardiometabolic and infectious diseases, which is then focusing more on the medical side, but the molecular methods between how these diseases develop, and then also giving well, some ideas and inspiration of how could one think of for the future, how could we solve these problems with these diseases in the future. So it's a very fixed curriculum in the program. But as mentioned in the beginning, it's a very international program also, so we have a lot of options for exchange studies. So during year 2, since it's a fixed program, we have an agreement with a university in the Netherlands, Leiden University. And this university is the oldest one, a very good one. They have a similar program, and then it's possible to go up to 10 students to Leiden and to then go on exchange for 1 semester, either this one or the second semester in the spring semester. Then, where most students go on exchange is for the degree project. Then we have agreements all over the world. So I will come to that here, looking on the exchange possibilities. So approximately 40 to 50% of the students, as it is right now, take the opportunity to go on exchange studies sometime during their studies. Of course, it's not necessary and doesn't even work all the time, but if you're interested in it, there are good opportunities. That's what I want to mention for you. Looking there, well, we have exchange agreements. So you see, it's a lot of focus on Europe in many countries. We have 1 agreement in Toronto, up in Canada. We have in Singapore, Australia, and 1 in Japan also. Japan is for master students, so that I'll come to that in a bit also. And these are then agreements where we have negotiated, so there's no tuition fee and so on. It's possible to go there on exchange. So, what is happening? I should say that after the studies. So, I don't know how much you know about Karolinska Institutet. You know, I guess you've read a little bit about it. So it's a medical university, so most of the study programs are professional programs where you get a license to work in healthcare and so on, but this is the only general program, the biomedical program. Going to other universities, most of the study programs are general study programs. The study program then, one of the questions is, what should I become when I grow up? What is the final outcome? So I will show you some things that our students have done so far to give you an idea what you can do. So graduation, of course, very nice, and then it's bachelor. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I would say practically 100% of our students, they continue with at least master studies because they're interested in developing their knowledge. And looking at the bachelor's program, it's quite focused on basic natural sciences, so it gives a good foundation, and then you can specialize in the master, decide on what you will do. So looking at what the options are, then we have some master's program at Karolinska Institutet, which I will go through. We have quite a few international master's program, and then we also have a fairly large groups of students going on exchange studies in other countries also, or going for master studies in other programs, I should say. So, what are the programs then? So master programs at KI. We have a master's program in Biomedicine, and this traditionally has been a very popular program to continue with, have a similar name, but so we have, I would say now, maybe a quarter, 25% of the students get into this program. So it all depends on the interest, of course, and what interest you get during taking the bachelor's program. But this program are for those ones, this master program are for those students that are interested in research. So it's based quite a lot of research projects, as you see. They go out, the students that take this master program, and do research in research projects either at KA or abroad. A lot of basic courses which adheres to doctoral studies, PhD studies later on. So approximately 70% or a little bit more than 70% of these students, they continue with PhD studies afterwards. So that is one option if you're interested in research. We have another study program in toxicology also. And this study program is then a 2 years master's also, but then focused on risk assessment, as you see, and it's a lot of regulatory and so on, and understanding how do different compounds work in different settings. And of course, this is extremely important information both for governments and for companies. So these guys get a job usually directly after their masters, going into toxicology testing and such things. And then if you don't want to continue with natural science, quite a few students are starting to apply for this study program, which is also present at Karolinska Institutet. And this is a study program in bio-entrepreneurship. And bio, it's because you need a basic training, a bachelor in natural science to be eligible, to be able to apply for this study program. But then, when you're in this program, everything is about management. How do you run a company, and everything around what you need to know to be working in a company setting. So the placements here is quite a few practical placements, and those ones, including the project, the thesis project here, are in companies where the students then go out and do work in companies. And I would say like quite a few, they actually get a job by these placements also. So that is one way if you're not directly interested in going directly into research, for instance, even if that is an option. And as I said, many students continue with doctoral studies, that is taking a PhD research training after the masters also. So what do they end up here? Here are our students. So I just picked a couple of titles that the students, previous students, have now. They've studied the program quite a while ago, but as you see, quite a few of them work in industry with different positions. That is in medical companies and so on. It doesn't have to be research. It could be experts in drugs and so on, and also quite a few that work in academic research. But we also have previous students that work in the governmental setting and in interest sphere like the Diabetic Foundation and so on. So, last day of application, 15th of January for international, but what is more likely is that you will apply them 15th of April. And if you're interested, you can always have a look at this web address. So do you have any questions? I should also mention that, I mean, the student group of the Biomedicine students, they are a really active group of students, which we really appreciate in the program. So they are one of the really driving forces in the medical union. They have a very strong collaborations with us, and that is one of the benefits of being a rather small program of 45 students also. So we have very good contact with them and a lot of help with them and discussions with all the students. So it's a fundamental and a crucial step of developing the program also to have involvement of the students, so which we very much appreciate also. And being a student in the program is of course very easy to discuss with teachers all the time also, and researchers if you're interested in that. Yes. Sorry. Yes. So So the question is about how do what's the basis for the admission to the program, and it's a central admission system in Sweden, so it's only studera.nu, and the only thing they go after with both the international and the national students is grades. So with international students, they convert the grades into Swedish grades, so it's only ranking per grade. So for the master's program, it's ranking with several different things, with a merit letter and recommendation letter and so on also. But for the bachelor's, that's a central system for the whole of Sweden, and then it's only grades. Yeah. Well, I'm not involved in it at all. So so it's centrally set, and this is just what it looked like this autumn. And of course, it all depends on who applies, what the final figures will be for the autumn. So we'll see. That's unfortunately all I can say. Yes.
Related to this question, because we're taking the IB, so I was about to ask if there's a grade requirement for the IB students, or do you just convert their grades into the Swedish system?
Yes, so it's a question of IB also, and they have a conversion table for that also, so it's converted. But what we've done is to take away the requirement of physics, which we had before. So the requirement is to have 3 different natural science subjects, so biology, chemistry, and mathematics, to facilitate for the IB students, which very often, at least at Broad, only can take 3 subjects. All right, so I got some one pointing out that the time is running out. If anyone has any more questions, I mean, I will be standing here by the side, but I will need to give room for coming speakers.